What jumps out at me in particular from this story in the Gospel of John about the raising of Lazarus is the phrase, Jesus wept. It's the shortest verse in the Bible, and it is full of the human condition. I think perhaps the lectionary may be inviting us to truly enter into our grief about all that is happening in this global crisis, and to know that Jesus grieves with us. Last week, I looked at the powerful transformations that God may be bringing about through the coronavirus pandemic, but I don't want you for a minute to think that I am suggesting that we should ignore the pain and sorrow that this time contains for all of us in different ways. We have lost jobs, income, childcare, social gatherings, school years, graduations, health, predictability, routines, connection. Some of us have even lost loved ones. We have all lost life as we once enjoyed it. Although we know that this situation is temporary, or we hope and pray that it sure doesn't feel that way. And deep in our bones, we realize that things will never be the same. Just as going to the airport is forever different since 9/11, things will change because of this worldwide pandemic. With the loss of normalcy, the fear of economic toll, the loss of connection, this global crisis is hitting us hard. And let's face it, like Mary and Martha, we are full of grief. We are grieving collectively in a way that we are not used to. It is in the air all around us. We are also feeling what is called anticipatory grief, that feeling we get about what the future holds when we're uncertain. We feel it when someone gets a dire prognosis, or when we have the thought that we'll lose a parent someday. Anticipatory grief is also more generally about broadly imagined futures. There is a storm coming, they say. There's something bad out there. With a virus, this kind of grief becomes very confusing because our primitive mind knows that something bad is happening, but we can't see it. We are feeling a loss of safety, and yet all the actions we are being required to take seem to contradict everything we know about being safe within a close-knit community. Instead, we have to distance ourselves from those we want to be with. We are in a state of grief on both a micro and a macro level. Understanding the stages of grief can help us to understand what is happening to us. First, there's denial, which we've certainly heard a lot of at St. John's. This virus won't affect us. This is all overreaction. And then there's anger. Why are you making me stay at home and taking away my regular community activities? Then there's bargaining. Okay, if I practice social distance for 2 weeks, everything will be better, right? And then there's real sadness. I don't know when this is going to end. And finally, there's acceptance. This is really happening. I have to figure out how to proceed. I can wash my hands, I can keep a safe distance, I can learn how to work virtually. Sometimes we try not to feel what we're feeling because we have this image of a gang of feelings that will erupt if we acknowledge one feeling. If I feel sad and let that in, it'll never go away, I think. And then the gang of bad feelings will overrun me. The truth is, feelings move through us. There's no gang out there to get us. We must allow ourselves to feel the grief and then keep knowing and keep going because Jesus weeps with us. If we allow ourselves to feel our grief, I believe we will find meaning in our grief, the same way that the early Christians found meaning in their grief over the death of Jesus. When we gather as people of faith, we invoke the memory of a death that was not the last word, and a rising that brings life, love, inclusion, and justice to our world. Meaning is the sixth stage of grief. I pray that during this most unusual time in our lives, we will be enabled to find new meaning and new life as we enter Holy Week with the entire Christian community around the world. Next Sunday is Palm Sunday. I wonder what might be in store for us.